Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you've had a good weekend. And we've had plenty of boxing on, haven't we? Including Robeisy Ramirez becoming the new WBO featherweight champ. He outpoints unanimously ISAAC DOGBOE, and good fight. I was looking forward to this one. I didn't realise it was actually on this Saturday. It's just as well someone mentioned it to me and I thought, oh, is that on this Saturday? Because being in the UK, the time difference and so on. But it was worth waiting for. It was worth catching because it's a top-ranked card. Top rank, I mean, whatever you think of Bob Arum, and I don't particularly like the guy as a person, but he and Top Rank are still putting on some very good cards, and this headlined it. And you probably know a bit about both these fighters, but Robeisy Ramirez, Cuban defector, lost his opening bout, his debut as a double gold medal winner at the Olympics. For Adan Gonzalez, lost a split decision over 4 and was down, I think, in the first round. And then 4 or 5 fights later, he fought him again and won a unanimous decision. So he sort of, mopped up the gravy, so to speak. And since then, since the opening, his debut, he's been undefeated. And this was a deserved unanimous decision over ISAAC DOGBOE, who we know as a former WBO super-bantamweight champ. He stopped Jesse Magdaleno in what at the time was considered an upset, stopped him in 11 rounds. But then he bumped into Emmanuel Navarrete, lost on points, over 12. Then I think it was an immediate rematch, if memory serves, and he got stopped in the 12th round. But he took a beating. And a lot of people thought those back-to-back defeats were going to finish ISAAC DOGBOE, but not a bit of it. He came back very, very well. Beat Adam Lopez. Was it a split decision or a majority decision? I can't remember offhand. What did he do? Who else did he beat? Christopher Diaz, I think, at some point. That was a decision. And then in his last fight, he beat Joet Gonzalez. That was another split decision. And that was for the WBO international title, which got him a ranking and got him this vacant belt shot. And so this was up at featherweight. His World Championship days were at super bantam. The question, of course, is was he big enough? Was he skillful enough to take on Ramirez? And just getting back to Ramirez for a moment. In his last fight, he stopped Jose Romero in 9 rounds, but for long periods of that fight, he was quite inactive, and he was clearly looking. He's a southpaw. He was clearly looking for that backhand left, the left cross, and he eventually found it and knocked out Romero in 9 rounds. But for long periods of that fight, there was no activity, and it's almost like he's one of those fighters who falls in love with his power and gets backhand happy. And I thought before the fight this might be a danger. I thought my prediction was that Ramirez would stop DOGBOE, beat him up and stop him between the 7th, 8th and 9th, that sort of period. And oddly enough, I think that was the best period of the fight for him, but he didn't stop him. But I thought he's gonna stand off, and DOGBOE is gonna come at him, and eventually he'll catch DOGBOE. But DOGBOE will have his moments. And sure enough, good old ISAAC. In the first round, it was a feeling out process. I did get the feeling that Ramirez might be slipping into his bad habits of not working hard enough. But in the second round, he clipped DOGBOE. Is it DOGBOE or DOGBOE? I think he pronounced it DOGBOE. He clips him with the backhand left, and he's in trouble. The little fella, call him the little fella from Ghana, he's in trouble. The smaller fella, if you like. And he staggered to the ropes. He managed to grab Robeisy around the waist and hang on. In the third round, he survived the round. In the third round, it was a better round for DOGBOE, but Ramirez was still not letting his hands go as much as I would have liked. He probably won the round, the third, but he sort of half let DOGBOE back into it, really. And another thing about Ramirez is he doesn't jab enough. He'll do single jabs, which were very good, but he won't double up on the jab that often. And there was a lack of bodywork as well, certainly from Ramirez. Early on, DOGBOE landed a very good left hook to the body, and I thought that might be the key to slow down Ramirez, because in those early rounds, DOGBOE wasn't doing enough during those periods of inactivity with Ramirez sort of taking time off and looking and feinting. He does a ton of feints, Ramirez, and keeps you off balance and makes you reset constantly. And DOGBOE's tactics were surely, I've got to put it on him. And I'm taking a risk because that backhand's always waiting and the hooks are always waiting. But if I want to win this fight, I've got to take it to him. And he kind of did that the 4th round, Ramirez really let his hands go. He did in the second, actually, and he did in the fourth. The third, he kind of took off. But in the fifth round, I mean, Dogboe was kind of being a bit busier. It's almost like the penny dropped. You know, I've got to do better here. I've got to be busier. I think his corner were telling him this. Otherwise, I'm just going to be outboxed. And I've got to make Ramirez fight at a pace that he doesn't like, because otherwise he can do, 36 rounds at his own pace. And this was the first 12 rounder for Ramirez. So there was that slight question mark as well. I didn't have any doubts that Ramirez would do 12. And he did 12 very well. But then from I think the 7th, 8th and 9th, that's when Ramirez did his best work, because he was letting his hands go and he was box fighting more. He wasn't standing off. He's using his feet a lot and keeping himself out of trouble, but at the same time, he wasn't posed. It wasn't all feints. He suddenly started to put his punches together and become a bit more industrious, little bit more cavalier. And Dogboe was fighting back, but I still think he was coming off second best, even though it's kind of like, when Ramirez planted his feet a bit more, Dogboe thought, okay, now I've got him. But it was actually kind of the other way around, because although Dogboe was throwing a lot more punches and landing some of them, Ramirez was the sharper shooter and was counter-punching very well. So I think that might be the period where he really stamped his authority. That's round 7, 8, 9, those middle rounds. I thought that was impressive. And then we get to the championship rounds, 10, 11, 12. It became slightly more competitive. Dogboe, to his credit, never stopped trying. I mean, he really is an absolute warrior. But Ramirez was in control, even though it was his first 12 rounder. Did he look out of puff? I don't think so. I think his engine looked fine. And he was able to sort of keep Dogboe honest, in the sense that Dogboe wasn't landing too many punches. But yeah, I made this fight one. I should point out, of course, in the 12th round there was a knockdown, because Dogboe knew he needed a knockout. Came out, and in the early part of the round, first 30 seconds, he got clipped by a left cross. Went down, wasn't hurt at all. He was actually hurt worse in the second round when he didn't hit the floor. And in one of the other rounds when he got clipped, 4th or 5th, maybe the 4th. But he hit the floor in the 12th. It wasn't fussed. He wasn't that bothered. Got up. And they had a little scrap. It was a bit to in and fro in. I thought Ramirez clearly won the round of 10-8. So I had this fight 117-110 to Ramirez. And that coincided with one of the judges. The other two, I think, had it like 118-109 or something like that. And then 119-108, I think but it was big, big wide scores. I thought it was a bit closer than that. I do think that some of the rounds that Dogboe was winning in the first minute and a half, Ramirez kind of came on strong and may have pinched those rounds. They were almost swing rounds, because, of course, the mistake that a lot of people make here is you've got 3 minutes. I always do it. Who wins the first minute? Who wins the second minute? And if you've got one each, who wins the third minute? They win the round. But people do tend to forget the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of a round. If someone comes on strong in the third minute, that's their round. Not necessarily so. But so there's a bit of contention there. But I definitely thought that Ramirez won the fight very clearly. All credit to Dogboe for hanging tough, trying to win right until the end, and all credit to Ramirez for really showing something, really showing a lot of heart, a lot of guts, can do the 12-round distance, lots of skills, needs to be a bit busier in places. Would like to see more body work from him, would like to see a more consistent jab, but he controls that range beautifully, and he can contain pressure fighters very well. Very, very good. Options for him at featherweight, we got Maurizio Lara as the WBA champ. That would be a barn burner. I'd love to see that fight. Ray Vargas is the WBC champ. Okay, and then you got Luis Lopez. He's the IBF champ. So Robeisy Ramirez is in the mix. Some good fights for him there, and I'd like to see him take on all those guys. Lara would be my preferred choice. Joet Gonzalez won on the undercard, won a decision. And so I think there's talk about putting him in as a first defence with Robeisy. But yeah, Robeisy's come together. He's got it on. After losing that debut, he's got it going on now. And this was a good card and a good fight over at Top Rank in America. So what did you think? What do you think of Robeisy? What do you think of his performance? What did you think of the resistance put up by Dogboe? I was very impressed myself. And what do you think of the potential matchups? Let me know. Leave your comments below. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you can. That helps out a great deal. More subscribers, build the channel up and all that. And in the meantime, we'll speak again soon sometime. Take care of yourselves and bye for now.